Alright, everyone. As you guys might be aware, I took the day off yesterday, and some stuff happened. One or two things went down. So some kind of important happened. You see, Donald Trump was doing a rally in Pennsylvania yesterday, and it was being broadcast from many angles. There were a lot of cameras, a lot of reporters, a big crowd, a lot of cameras on him. And out of nowhere, if you were watching the live footage, you would have heard clicks. The unmistakable sound of gunfire. If you're somebody who's, like, watched gun videos where, you know, on video you know what guns sound like from video, audio, or if you've, like, you know, you've heard the sounds before, you know, those, like, particular clicks. And Trump recognized it, too, clearly. He actually turns his head because he hears rounds whizzing past him and the shots coming from to his right. He turns his head, and the second he turns his head, where his skull cranium once was, is replaced by his right ear. And at the top of his right ear, it's just, you can imagine, like, his right ear. At the top of his right ear, like right here, the bullet, like, passes by and just fucking wings him. I don't know if we've got, like, really close images. He was so lucky. Like, the wind, I think, also affected it a bit, but largely it was the fact that the shooter seemed to have missed the first shot. Then Trump turned his head to look at the direction of the sound because the first shot missed. And the fact that the first shot missed is what made the second shot miss. Well, mostly miss. You know, miss in the sense that, like, it just winged him, you know? And so, unfortunately, and I do think this is, like, sad because who knows the genuine levels of derangement and, commitment of the people that were in the crowd. But I believe at least one supporter of Trump that was in the crowd got shot and died. I know, like, the instinct is to say, heh, you know, and I thought that at first too, and I made my jokes about it, but I think about it and it's like, just because you're at a Trump rally doesn't mean you chose to go to the Trump rally, right? There could be some, like, couples there where, like, one person, the couple's super into Trump and the other's just like, okay, honey. There could be people there that have brought their kids. There very well could have been people there that, even if they support Trump, aren't necessarily monsters, right? Like, we've known of ex-Trump supporters, right? Usually if they're not monsters, they're not supporting Trump anymore. But, like, a lot of these people are brainwashed. Sad, brainwashed individuals. And I'm not gonna, like, moralize or talk down or shit talk or tell you not to make fun of the people who were hit in the crowd. But I will say, one of the people that was injured was a dad protecting his kid from getting killed, like, body blocking. Like, there were people in the crowd who, when they realized shots were going off, you can see them take their bodies and cover other people in the crowd. There were some fundamentally decent people in that crowd that when shots rung out, their immediate reflex was to cover people with their bodies. And that even if they're supporting an awful fascist piece of shit, the fact that, like, that is their instantaneous reaction, not to get down and cower, but to block others from harm, that's... I think it's important to think about that for a moment, you know? Like, can we admit that that's fairly admirable? Now, once again, not gonna attack anybody who makes fun of the people who died, considering I know that for a lot of people, all they see is a rally of people that want to take their rights away, and I won't blame you if that's all you see. I'm not gonna moralize it. I just think it's a perspective worth at least noting. Now, Donald Trump receives this shot through his ear. We're gonna probably see, like, at least the most safe for work footage that does exist of this in a moment. It's by far the least gruesome gunshot video I've ever seen, surprisingly. Like, isn't that crazy? The president got shot on national television live, and it's the least gruesome gunshot wound I've ever seen. Legitimately. I've never seen a less severe, less gruesome gunshot wound. Never. Every gunshot wound I've ever seen on the internet has been worse than Trump's. That is the least severe. I've ever seen. I didn't think there was a way to get shot and for it to be such a no big deal as that. Like, I would have never imagined a scenario like that was possible or like, plausible. I mean, technically it's plausible, but, like, realistically would happen. And it happened to the president on national TV. So, yeah. I have bled more from my nose than Trump bled out of his ears in that video. Yeah, absolutely. Now, obviously, frankly, I'm going to hit you guys with a hot take. Do you want to know what my ideal world is? One in which Biden beats Trump in November, and Trump is left truly bankrupt after having spent so much donor money, having demonstrated that he just doesn't have what it takes anymore to win elections after 2 failures, has gotten another 4 years older, another 4 years fatter, and another 4 years closer to his dementia-riddled Swiss cheese brain falling apart, and just eventually, like, withers away a sad, like, questionable existence. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of want him to like die of natural causes in dejected defeat, bankrupt, a felon, and like with as like progressively less and less and less people giving a fuck about him each day. Not him at a rally, standing in front of an admiring crowd of people cheering for him and smiling for him and carrying signs for him, and then he's happy and smiling, and then all of a sudden, blink, it's over. And that's the last thing he ever sees or experiences. No karmic justice, no like poetic sort of fulfillment of setup for his awful behavior. Like, God, I'd prefer him to be in prison. The idea that he would just be looking at his adoring fans and that would be the last thing he sees or experiences, just the joy of receiving attention. Do you really think that's... Like for people who wish it went down, do you really think that would have been the ideal way to see Trump end his tenure on this planet? Yeah, there's a picture where you can see the vapor trail of the bullet going by Trump. I think this is real. Yeah, nobody is really calling it out as fake, so I think this is legit. Yeah, I've had people in chat say, like, what do you mean you can see bullets when you shoot guns? It's like, yeah, at certain speeds, you can see this. You can see the bullet when you fire a gun. Once you've shot enough guns, like, they are absolutely, you can catch it, a photo of the bullet in midair. It's just a streak. Yeah, I mean, it's very obvious there, but yeah. It's real. New York Times photographer got the shot. That's crazy. That's the round, because he turned his head, because he's looking at the shooter there. The bullet's zipped past him there. That's it, after it's already passed through his ear. He's looking at the shooter after the missed shot. This could be the missed shot that flew past him, though. No, because he's turned his head. When he turned his head to the side, that was when he was looking to the missed shot where it came from, and that's when he saved his own life. That head turn is what changed everything, you know? They don't leave a trail of smoke behind when they're fired, Galaxy Bomb. No, it's a vapor trail. When you fire a round, here. When you fire a bullet, this little projectile comes out of the casing, and it, has a ton of speed and everything, and it's also really hot, and it's traveling with so much speed and so much heat that it creates, it actually creates a trail of vapor around it, almost like a little cartoon, bubble out of the front of it. When you look at, videos of it, you can kind of see, a distortion in the air, kind of like... It's not like steam. It's not steam. It's more like, have you ever been walking down the street in a really hot day and you see, that warbly effect from the heat radiating off the road or the sidewalk? That sort of invisible fire or invisible smoke kind of effect? Imagine that sort of, almost like water if it was a gas look, but clear. It's clear. It's heat haze. Yeah, heat haze is essentially what the vapor trail looks like. And you can just see that. Yeah. Anyway, there's a lot that has come out about this. Now, there's conspiracy theories, there are interpretations of it, there are emotional reactions. My mom really hates Trump, and I messaged her about this the second the news was big, because I wanted to be the first one to tell her. And her immediate reaction, and she still maintains it, is that this was theater, and that it was staged. And I think it's worth noting that a lot of people are probably going to assume that, because that is very much in Trump's, that's something that Trump would do, right? Like, it seems like it's in character for him. But this really doesn't seem to be staged. This really does seem like it's just all of the stars coming together and aligning to give Trump the, most ideal possible moment to look powerful and strong. It's just yesterday was the best day of Trump's life. That's just the fact of it. Like, the stars aligned and made yesterday the best day of Trump's life. He came near close to death. He had that, he has that jubilation you get after a near-death experience where you're alive afterwards. He comes out of it with clenching his bloody fist with the American flag in the background, the most immaculate photo that could have ever been taken in the moment, which is now going to be on T-shirts. I think Time is going to make it their magazine for Person of the Year this year. Just everything came together for him to look as powerful and triumphant and heroic as possible. And there's a photo, or the photo that's very iconic. There's a shirt that's being sold en masse right now. I actually remember saying in VC, if whoever is printing the shirts of that image right now are going to be a millionaire by the end of the week. And it's captioned with the iconic quote, "If you're gonna take a shot at the king, you better not miss." Everything, all the stars aligned to give Trump the best day of his life yesterday. What are you talking about, Slashy? No. Yeah, so basically, a lot of people seeing that are like, oh, this must be staged. It's so perfect for Trump. This has to be staged. In the same way that Trump supporters insisted that the bald eagle dive-bombing Trump when he was on stage must be staged. I know. Because it's so karmically perfect that a bald eagle would, attack Trump when he's, pretending to be so pro-America and everything. The exact reverse here has happened. Where, something so optically good for him has happened that it's almost impossible to believe that so many disparate factors came together to create such an ideal situation for him. And while I don't think this is going to be ideal for him in the sense that he's going to win the election or whatever, I don't think he'll win still. I genuinely don't. Especially after 24 hours to mull over the immediate sort of adrenaline rush of the story coming out. I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. The biggest wedge issues of this election are still solidly in Biden's court. And I think the fact is that, once again, this is an election where people are going to be voting against Trump, not for Biden. And as sad as that is, because Biden's actually done some pretty admirable work in his tenure as president. Not tenure, I don't know why I use that term. In his time as president. It's at the end of the day, he gets elected or he doesn't, and I think he probably will, because these wedge issues are so serious to people. And I don't think, however heroic Trump came out looking from this event, I don't think it's going to make a difference all that substantially for election results. I really don't.
About 9:30 p.m. here on the East Coast. This occurred around 6:15 p.m. in Butler, Pennsylvania. If you're just joining us, I'm going to be playing
Also, Trump's lying when he says he would have felt the bullet ripping through his skin. There's no way he felt that. What Trump almost certainly felt was a sudden sting. Bullets travel so unbelievably fast that if you were shot and the round passed through your shoulder, it would have gone through your shoulder before you felt it. That is how quickly it's happening. You wouldn't feel a, ripping sensation through your ear when a bullet passes through it. It would be it would almost feel like someone just suddenly took a pair of scissors and just snipped the tip of your ear, like an almost instantaneous, just snip, just like a pop, like a not just like instantaneous, like just splitting open of your ear. Like, it would just feel like your skin split open out of nowhere. It would be so instantaneous. It would burn and sting out of nowhere. And you'd be like, what the fuck? Because that is how fast it is. It would take a second to register. Yeah.
What the former president, how this began, the former president making remarks.
If you're wondering how I know, it's because I listen to a lot of videos that are like podcast appearances of like Marines and shit like that, and a lot of them have been shot. Like, they'll be like, yeah, so here's the scarf when I got shot and so, and then here's the scar in my stomach where I got shot in the gut. Oh, that really hurt. It broke up inside the gut and they had to pull out 4 pieces. Oh, painful. It's like describing what it was actually like and what it really felt like, and vividly comparing it to more like common experiences. Like, getting shot in the gut apparently feels like constipation, except like the shit inside of you is made out of broken glass is apparently what it feels like to be shot in the gut. So like it's very like, you can imagine what it feels like, you know what I mean? I want Xander Hall's thoughts on the narrative. I want to discuss the shooter being a Republican. Yes, we're not, guys, Slashy, we are not done with the segment. You need to calm down with the segment done thing. I've just started it. We are 16 minutes into what will probably be an hour-long segment. Please, I have a whole order in which I'm trying to cover everything. Calm down.
Mark, shortly into the beginning of this this campaign appearance. Let's watch.
Oh, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
Here it is. So, like, there's a lot of versions of the story that have come out that aren't exactly accurate. A big part of it is the idea that Trump fought the Secret Service agents and was able to, like, wrestle his way up. When that photo was taken, like, the shots that you hear going off, that's the Secret Service firing back at the shooter. Like, Trump is held down for like a good 30 seconds here. The shooter's taken out, and then Trump rises up, and then he puts his fist up in the air and yells, "Fight, fight, fight," to his crowd. Mind you, like, one of his supporters is like dead behind him as he's doing that, but you know, it's his moment, not anyone else's.
Move! Up! Move! Go! Up! Hawkeye's here! Hawkeye's here! Move to the stair! Stair, get ready! Stair, get ready!
I mean, I'm surprised this is on YouTube, but I guess it's like, there's not really, the video itself is actually like surprisingly tame. Like, you just hear gunshots, and then Trump grabs his ear that you can't see, and then he just gets down to the ground, and then you hear a few more shots, and now it's just, yeah, the shooter's dead now. The shooter's killed within about 10 seconds of the first shot going off, maybe less. The Secret Service had the guy in their sights before he took his first shot, so it was pretty fast. It was pretty quick. Like, had the shooter taken another second to shoot, he wouldn't have had the chance to shoot.
Are we good? Shooter's down. Are we good to move?
Yeah, so the shooter's down, and then Trump gets up. So, like, for those of you guys hearing things like Trump fought his way out of the crowd of Secret Service agents to, like, pose for the photo, that's not the case. They let him up because the shooter down is what the TSA, or not why do I keep saying TSA? They're Secret Service. What the, how, TSA and Secret Service are nothing alike. Why does my brain mix them up? I could never be president. I would get Bidened by the media for every single mix-up of names and words. Oh my God. Yeah, I've got to step down. Now, it is good, though, to have, like, full confirmation that it doesn't matter how good a candidate is on a policy level. With the online left, that the majority of the online left, to be clear, does not care about policy. by any means, or the actual like performance of a Democrat president. And it's more about like whether or not they feel like they're on a popular train. Just like with like Trump, they want, like, it's interesting that like Vosh, Cenk Uygur, and a lot of other people on like the fuck Biden train are doing the whole like Biden is, God, I got totally brain scrambled there. Yeah, the whole argument that like Biden is too weak to win and that's the reason why he needs to be replaced. When meanwhile, like, we advocated for Bernie, like everybody wanted Bernie, everyone was calling for Bernie, and he literally couldn't win the primary. Like, I don't know. I don't know. It's just, it's frustrating because, like, the Doomering, this is not going to affect Biden's chances all that strongly. I really do think that most people's position on the election has been decided since at least January 6th, maybe longer. And on top of that, I think it's important to consider the fact that Biden's supporter base are like an invisible force. The Republicans like to talk about how there's a silent majority. Biden's supporter base are, in fact, the real silent majority. And they are silent. They're not out there talking politics. They are tuned out until Election Day. And that's when they're going to go in and they're going to vote for the guy that isn't Trump.
Let me get my shoes. I got you, sir. Let me get my shoes.
His shoe came off when he got tackled, and you can hear him saying, "Let me get my shoe." And they didn't let him get his shoe. They dragged him off of stage, and his shoe was left there.
Hold that in your head, bloody. So we gotta move to the bus. Let me get my shoes. Okay, my shoes down. Watch out. Wait.
It's crazy that they're cheering as, like, right behind him and to the side here, there's, like, actively, like, dead people in the crowd. Like, I'm pretty sure there is a dude whose brains are, like, splattered on the floor, like, 20 feet behind Trump there in that, like, line of pews. You see Kyling, too? Dude, imagine you're like a Trump supporter bleeding to death in the pews and you watch as Trump gets carried off from like the equivalent of getting your ear pierced.
CNN Primetime anchors Caitlin Collins and Abby Phillip are here with me. Caitlin, I know you've been talking to sources. What's the latest you're hearing?
The entire campaign apparatus is just deeply rattled. A lot of people have not been able to have a chance to speak with the former president directly. A few of them have. Obviously, we heard from him himself, but even his children just had a few brief moments on the phone with them. We've heard from most of them so far, all obviously still processing this. I mean, obviously, every president is hyper aware of their security and their surroundings ever since what happened to President Reagan and also JFK. Donald Trump himself is also one of those. I mean, I've been to dozens of these rallies. This is outside, obviously, so the security parameter is different, but you go through Secret Service security to go into any rally like this. You go through a magnetometer. You have that instance. I should note what I'm hearing from a lot of them is questions about the security here and what happened and how
Never get your ears pierced at Claire's. I've seen that on Twitter a few times.
Something like this could happen because it does seem unthinkable, I think. And the House Oversight Chair, James Comer, just put out a statement saying that he has reached out to the Secret Service Director. He's requesting briefings. We are going to see action on Capitol
The person who died was a woman? Oh, okay, that explains why the Trump supporters weren't upset.
Hill as a result of this, even though we are very much still learning so much of this. But I also spoke with people who were there. I'm not going to say the name of one of the people I was on the phone with just because they had to get off very quickly, so I don't want to disclose their identity. But they were right up there near the front when this happened. And they said you could see Trump react as obviously, as he says now, it was a bullet that grazed his ear. And you can hear the panic in his voice in those first few moments in the audio where he's saying, let me get my shoes, let me get my shoes. And then he's whisked off stage. He pumped his fist, as you can see here in this photo right now. I was told that as he was taken down into the motorcade before he was taken to the hospital there in Butler, Pennsylvania, he kind of pumped his fist again and had this defiant kind of stance, reacting in the moment to what happened. He has left the hospital, but a lot of people obviously are still just trying to get in touch with him and to talk to him in the aftermath of this.
Yeah, I mean, it is inconceivable that something like this could have happened. I mean,
His victory lap is going to be astronomical. Like, there really is a crossroads here for Trump. And I'm really wondering, do you want to know how 2024 feels to me? It feels like the reverse 2016. Allow me to explain. 2016 felt like the year of escalation for right-wing populism, especially on the internet, but even in the real world to the extent that it actually impacted the election. Where at the start of 2016, things were certainly bad. I mean, like, it really blew up in 2014, but I feel like the highest rate of acceleration and the peak was 2016. And by the end of 2016, we were absolutely in the spike of right-wing populist, like, hysteria popularity, right? Though this time around, it feels like we've started the year off with, like, the red pill community being, somewhat relevant, the Chud stuff being at its peak. But now, I mean, we're in this year where with each passing month, it feels like even with the right getting louder and louder, they're getting crazier and crazier and kind of crossing the line where it feels like their grip is loosening the closer to the end of the election year that we get, as opposed to tightening like it did in 2016. And another way in which it feels like the reverse is the polling. If you remember back in 2016, the polling was very strongly on Hillary's side, down to the point where it was sort of the meme that Hillary completely gave up on campaigning or trying to win because she was so convinced, and the Democrats were so convinced that she had it in the bag, and the polling was so favorable to her, and she still lost, even with the majority of the popular vote. And that's kind of how Trump is behaving this time around, where the polling is so strongly against Biden, but that polling has never been so reliable, but the Republicans are still taking it as like this preset win. Like the way Trump talks about his victory is a lot like how Hillary did in 2016. And it's making me wonder if, like, after his little victory lap he has when the adrenaline wears off, is Trump going to feel like this and everything else is enough and not really, maybe perhaps underestimate the degree at which women and POC are going to come out to push the vote in Biden's favor? I really do feel that, like, if Trump tries to use this as an excuse to escalate his rhetoric, he's fucking himself. But if he uses this as an excuse to sound like a victim, because there's two ways he can go. Full victim crybaby mode, which might actually win him some fence-sitter middle-of-the-road voters, those that exist at this point on this election. Or he could go full authoritarian, where he just starts going on rants about how they've tried to kill him now, and everyone saw it, and that when he becomes president, that the radical left needs to be destroyed. He might go on a full-on megalomaniacal rant crusade after this that just scares people into disliking Trump and being afraid of him even more, which could end up hurting him in the long run. I would not necessarily tally this event as a benefit for Trump yet. He could respond in a way that dominoes this positive for him into something really detrimental in the long run.
Covered President Obama, President Trump.
I think it's also worth noting that, like, those Twitter posts you're probably seeing where it's people saying, I didn't really like Trump before, but after seeing how bravely he handled this, he's got my vote. Every single one of those people have a long, multi-year history of tweeting that they support Trump and dislike anyone who doesn't. There are countless big right-wing bot accounts or right-wing, like, pro-Trump accounts that are now pretending like they're day one Trump supporters after this event happened. Do not believe that shit. It is a psyop. Do not believe it.
Trump, candidates, even at outdoor rallies, in fact, especially at outdoor rallies, the kind of security that they would have, the perimeter, not just where people are going, but all the buildings surrounding it. There's a reason that that whole apparatus is supposed to extend even beyond just the rally itself, and it's because of this country's long, dark history with exactly this scenario.
Right. I mean, they have counter snipers who are with binoculars scanning
all
buildings
over.
all
so
over.
Usually on top of those very buildings. And so, I mean, this is not, unfortunately, as Tim said, not a new scenario.
My understanding is the shot was taken from 150 yards away, roughly, from the top of a roof. God, my nose. Don't know what kind of gun was used. If I were to guess, it would probably just be, I would guess like an AR-15 is what I've seen people memeing about, but it might not be that. I wouldn't be surprised if it was. They're really popular. But like, people were joking about how the guy has shit aim. Not really. It was an AR-15 style rifle? Okay. Yeah. It was probably just a modded AR-15 then. Probably just like a custom, like they probably just tricked it out, and so AR-15 style is what it'll be called. Anyway, the guy wasn't a bad shot necessarily. In fact, I think the FBI has confirmed it now that the guy was well trained and clearly had experience with the weapon and had put a lot of time into using the weapon. He also had a Demolition Ranch shirt. Like, it's so sad too, because Demolition Ranch is like one of the nicest gun tubers. Like, I watch a lot of GunTube, and I hate most of the creators that are in it because of how chuddy they are. Like, it's not even with the gun stuff. It's just like they'll, like, a lot of their videos, like, we're gonna shoot a bunch of Bud Light cans. Fuck trans people. It's like, okay, I was just here for the guns. Demolition Ranch keeps it pretty apolitical, besides, like, he's done, like, a gun training video with police officers, but yeah, being friendly with cops is certainly not, like, lefty or anything, but, like, it's pretty bog standard for, like, I wouldn't say, like, right-wing politics to be a gun YouTuber that does a video where you trained your shooting skills with cops, you know? Like, see, can I outshoot some of these cops? Can they outshoot me? Can I learn something from them? Will they learn anything from me? You know, it's an interesting concept. I don't think Demolition Ranch is a liberal. No, not at all. But he's not like an awful Nazi, like, right-winger, you know? He's just one of the most popular gun tubers. Dude, if you're gonna go and try to assassinate the president, don't wear the merch of some innocent YouTuber. Such a cucked move on the part of that guy, low-key. Wearing that shirt? What a fucking dick. Like, imagine wearing a band's shirt to go out and commit a crime, like your favorite band's shirt. It's like, well, now it's like that was a real dick move to Demolition Ranch. How do you think he's handling it? I'm curious if he's tweeted. Let's see. Demolition Ranch. Last night was crazy. I've got news stations calling me asking if I ever spoke with the shooter. What the hell? That is his last tweet. And his only tweet in regards to the situation. It was 9 hours ago. Yeah, this guy's probably getting his shit blown the fuck up right now. Like, all of his socials, because everybody is like, did you know the shooter? Like, what was the deal there? He's just some YouTuber who makes fun gun videos. Like, his videos are so, like, wholesome for gun videos, too. Like, usually he starts the videos where it's, like, a skit video where he, like, does a little joke skit with his son, and it's like his son will have a Nerf gun and shoot him or something, or like, it'll be like he's walking to the fridge and, like, his, like, adorable little son's like, put your hands where I can see them, is holding, like, a Nerf gun. He's like, ah, don't hurt me. You know, it's just a wholesome little skit, usually about, like, how his family deals with his being a gun YouTuber, and then, you know, it switches to him doing the video about the guns. He's such a wholesome creator in the gun sphere to like receive this blowback. It sucks.
For this country. In fact, it is a scenario that's played out too many times in this country, and the Secret Service is deeply aware of that. Every single time that a protectee comes even close to an incident like this, it's something that sets off an incredible amount of soul searching within the organization, and I'm sure this one will too. But for the country tonight, I think so many people it doesn't matter where you are in the political spectrum. I'm hearing from them, obviously, tonight. People are stunned and they're worried. They are worried about what is going to happen in this country. We still have some 4 months before the end of this election, and this is occurring before a major political event. There is a lot of fear in the country right now about what this portends and also what it says about where we are.
And you think, I mean, it's, you know, there's Ronald Reagan, but Steve Scalise, Nancy Pelosi, the man who
Gabby
came
Giffords,
to her house.
I think it's important. Yeah, they're about to bring it up, but I think it's important to bring up the blatant double standard in this whole situation. For those that don't remember, a psychotic Trump supporter took a hammer, broke into Nancy Pelosi and her husband Paul Pelosi's house, and assaulted him with it. The police were called. It was a whole thing. And the right's response was obviously to celebrate this and to mourn the fact that he didn't succeed at killing Nancy and Paul Pelosi, but to also find a way to make his survival of the attack a punishment. And so they created a conspiracy theory. The idea that the guy who attacked him was actually his gay lover, who, because if you're a conservative, you would know that gay people are mentally unstable and violent and untrustworthy. So they had a gay lover's spat, and one attacked the other with a hammer. And, so it was a mix of, like, getting to sort of create a conspiracy about, like, the incompatibility and non-functionality in their worldview of gay relationships or gay sexual interactions, while simultaneously smearing a Democratic political figure. What the fuck? Question mark. Why are you question marking me, Roxagon? This happened. Like, do you not remember? If you don't remember it or you weren't there for it, then just Google it if you don't believe me, or learn it. I had no idea they came up with the gay shit after that happened. Yeah, no, it's real. It's completely real, Roxagon. You can Google it if you don't believe me. And Donald Trump was one of the biggest purporters of this. Donald Trump himself tweeted about how, I believe the tweet was something like, "It's okay, Paul Pelosi, live your truth." He tweeted that on Truth Social, just like outright mocking him for the attack, the attempt on his life, and calling him gay. So you've got the fact, that Republicans' response to Nancy and Paul Pelosi nearly being killed is to make fun of them and to smear them. But when Trump is nearly killed, the response is, if you even so much as joke about it, then this is a sign of how the radical left is violent and they love political violence, yada, yada, yada. You got to remember that for Trump supporters, chuds, and sometimes even a good amount of fake centrists that think they're centrists, they grade Trump on a curve. The fact that so much negative attention is given to Trump for his negative behavior makes them believe that there must be an equal level of bad, at least, done by both sides, both candidates, both parties, and that the media is just hyper-focusing on Trump. So they think of Trump as the evil they know, and they think of Biden and the Democrats as the evil they don't know, because that's the dichotomy that's been taught to them by populists, frankly. Dumb fuck populists. And that could be what fucks us in this election. And that is the narrative that is pushed with the whole Biden is too old thing. Like, genuinely, the media, if Biden was such a weak, awful candidate, don't you think there would be a bunch of awful policy to cover with Biden? Like, don't you think it would be like, hey, Biden signed this bill. Look how awful it is. Don't you think there'd be countless examples, or at least some, at least somewhere, like half as many or a quarter as many as Trump's policies you could point to, or things Biden did while president in the like job of being president that were a problem. Because there's been no scandals about his engagements with other world leaders. His policies have been so good that the media has avoided talking about them because you just can't spin it negatively. How do you spin the PACT Act with the VA benefits negatively? How do you spin the $35 insulin vial cap negatively? How do you spin the student debt cancellation negatively? How do you can't spin Biden's actual achievements as president in a negative way, and there are not really any fuck-ups to speak of. So what do they focus on? Hey guys, did you see Biden said Putin instead of Zelensky in a speech and corrected himself in less than 2 seconds? Like, think about that for a second. That Biden is such a good president that the worst thing about him is that he misspeaks. And not like says something awful when he misspeaks. It's he like mixes up names and then corrects himself. And sometimes he mumbles or stutters or gets mushmouth. Like, that's legitimately, this is the guy who is so bad we need to like drop him. Like, simply the fact that people are insisting they don't want him to be the president in 2024 and to 2028 and implies they don't know how good of a job he has been doing. Anyway.
Pulled out a statement tonight
her husband,
as well.
Gabby Giffords, as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen these incidents before, but there's something, Anderson, particular about it happening in the context of a presidential campaign. It's a sign, as President Biden said tonight, of a sickness in the country, that someone thought to take a step to alter or affect the outcome of a presidential election with an act like this. And
it's funny that I told my dad about how Biden corrected himself, and his response was, why don't they ever mention that he corrected himself? Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it, right? Like, for like 90% of the people, I think, that are like under the impression Biden is just this doddering old fool doing nothing, a lot of them are just not really tapped in. And it's why I've spent so much time trying to inform you guys, because once you're informed on these things, there's no going back. You can't go back to the state of ignorance that breeds the hatred of Biden that's so pervasive in the left right now. You can't erase that info from your mind and go back to that, like, ignorance. And so I'm trying to eliminate said ignorance, but like for example, with the Vaush thing, I just want to go onto his stream, ask him to elaborate on the points he made in the videos that I covered and wrote his points down on in my document for preparation, and then talk to him about Biden's achievements. Because worst case scenario, at the very least, I can go onto Vaush's platform and just list a bunch of shit Biden's done that I would be willing to bet my left ball 80% of his fans don't know Biden's done, and would have no recourse for explaining how Biden's actually cringe and not based after having done those things. I would just at least like to have those accomplishments platformed, you know? And I do think Vaush is reasonable enough to have his mind changed. Of all people, he is definitely reasonable enough to have his mind changed by an actual, like, one-on-one debate. At least I hope. But we'll see. Ask him to agree to it, chat.
And for the people who are watching tonight, who are wondering what this means, I mean, they are right to wonder, because I think we all have to be prepared for a lot of chaos ahead. But I also think it's a moment for the country to decide right now what kind of country we live in, and whether or not this is the kind of thing that is going to really change how we conduct ourselves. I mean, I think it is still within the power of patriotic citizens.
Yeah, well, the actual reality, Antifa Private 161, is that Biden will be the general Democratic candidate in the election. It's not going to change unless Biden dies. And so, in which case, like, there is no argument to be had. He has to be replaced. But he's not going to be replaced barring that. It just won't happen. And so what we're doing now is just throwing stones at the guy who we need to be strong in 4 months, and we need to be behind unilaterally in 4 months. And I just don't know how we can do that when, like, every day it's, here's how bad this guy is. But trust me, you're definitely gonna be motivated enough to go out and vote for him.
In this country to push back against this kind.
Like, especially after this, like if your perception is times are getting tougher after an event like this for the Democrats, then you should be fighting harder than ever. You know, when they push, you push harder. That's just how this whole thing works. More info has, of course, come out. That's actually last night's big news dump. But we have since gotten an identification of the shooter from the FBI, if I'm not mistaken. Oh yeah, we've got a breakdown of how everything unfolded. Oh wait, no. I don't know if I can show that. Viewer discretion advised. Oof. Oof. We've also got Biden's statement, because as you know, people have been accusing Biden of being involved and having been responsible. And as funny as that would be, no, he's obviously not. And just for the comparison where Trump helped to push a conspiracy that Nancy Pelosi's husband was in a gay relationship that went violent when they were nearly assassinated, here is how the Democrats respond when their political opponents are nearly assassinated. And yet, mind you, the Republicans will call the Democrats the violent political extremists as they just dominate the charts on political violence each year.
Thanks for coming, folks.
You gotta remember, guys, the right strives off of making videos, memes, and anecdotes go viral. And once that happens, a few anecdotes can color someone's perception of the world so powerfully. It's why, like, the videos of the triggered-faced ladies are so famous and so ubiquitous, is that once you've shown someone a couple videos like that, no one can hear the word feminist anymore without thinking a big red, right? And her, like, face sneering at the camera. And so when you can color someone's perception of the world or a group of people or an issue through anecdotes, you can make them ignore data. It's a big part of how, like, the right hyper-focuses and boosts a few examples of actual predatory people who happen to be LGBT. Those stories go mega super duper viral. And then at that point, people are already, kind of on board with the idea that there's at least a prevalence of groomers and weirdos among the LGBT community. And from there, they close their mind up to any data, right? Like, if you actually look at statistics, the majority of sex crimes are committed by cis, straight men. The majority of sex crimes are. In fact, I believe cis, straight women commit more sex crimes than gay men do, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. But, like, the LGBT community does not really have an extremely high rate for sex crimes, certainly not against children. It's lesser than that of, like, the cis, straight population. And so with that in mind, you would think, well, it's ridiculous to think that, like, gay people are this groomer force, dangerous to our children, but that's not where they're getting their information from. It's not where the people who believe it got their information from. They got it from a few examples they know are real, they can see, that they have an emotional reaction to. Their opinions are tied to the emotional reaction they had when they learned about that specific anecdote, and data is just numbers. They can come up with rationalizations for how those numbers don't matter, or they're not real, or they're biased, or they're incomplete, to justify their anecdotally informed worldview being valid.
I've been thoroughly briefed by all the agencies in the federal government as to the situation, based on what we know now. I have tried to get a hold of Donald. He's with his doctors. Apparently he's doing well. I plan on talking to them shortly, I hope, when I get back to the telephone. Look, there's no place in America for this kind of violence. It's sick.
I know that, like, lefties are going to call this out as bad or whatever, but this is just objectively the right way to respond. I don't know if he's going to, like, stutter or mushmouth a bunch and people are going to freak out about it or whatever, but denouncing the political violence is obviously the right move. Political violence is extremely unpopular. Like I know that, like, if you're on the internet, it's like, billions must die. Everybody believes this. But if you leave the internet for even a second, you'll find that 95% of the normal real world outside the internet like, if it doesn't matter if you are literally the side fighting to end slavery, if you dare to raise a hand at your political opponents, you've lost the battle. You've lost the argument. You've lost 50% or more of the spectator audience that you need to win to your side in a political thing. It's just, we are in an age where political violence is simply viewed as unacceptable as a principle. Like, unless it's direct self-defense, where like you are actively being attacked, like physically, like hands are on you. Political violence is just an instant you have lost, your side has lost thing. You have to denounce political violence to get anywhere politically in America. You cannot LARP thinking that shit's based or cool or okay and get anywhere. It's not popular.
It's sick. It's one of the reasons why we have to unite this country. We cannot allow for this to be happening. We cannot be like this. We cannot condone this. And I want to thank the Secret Service and all the agencies, including the state agencies, that have been engaged in making sure that people who...
Me and my grandma, who is kind of liberal-leaning and absolutely hates Trump, we were talking about this, and I jokingly said I wish the shooter was successful, and she said, no, not even I believe that, and she hates Trump. Yeah, I mean, like, you gotta realize that, like, people don't generally agree with the idea that another person deserves to die, no matter how bad their political views are. Like, even if they're like a literal, like, plantation slave owner from like pre-Civil War era brought to the future, and wanting to resurrect slavery times again. They don't believe political violence is justified. The vast majority of Americans don't believe that. And if you say you agree with it, or imply it, or allow the narrative that you do agree with it to like run wild, it will destroy you.
And we have more
Though remember, at the same time, the majority, like a lot of Americans still agree with the death penalty. I'm not saying it's consistent. I'm just, it's that civility politics. It's actual civility politics. The idea that like, no matter how dangerous rhetoric is, that dangerous rhetoric can never, ever, 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 ever justify physical, violent responses, not even proactive self-defense.
Detail to come relative to other people maybe injured in the audience. I don't have all that detail. We'll make that available to you. I may be able to come back a little later tonight, but we'll put out a statement if I'm not able to if it's not convenient for you all. But the bottom line is that the Trump rally was a rally that he should have been able to be conducted peacefully without any problem. But the idea that there's political violence or violence in America like this is just unheard of. It's just not appropriate. And everybody must condemn it. Everybody. I'll keep you informed, and if I...
This is the right message. I like people... I imagine there'll be, like, people nitpicking it. There's gotta be. Especially, like, I bet people shit on how short of a message it is. But, I mean, I think it's just perfect, you know? Like, Biden can't really say things that are going to make a crowd cheer, but he can certainly say things that are going to disallow a narrative from forming that, like, Biden's supporter base is in favor of this. And since then, we've gotten evidence that this was not the work of Biden's supporter base, and we'll get to that in a moment.
I'm able to speak to Donald. I'll let you know that as well. So far, it appears he's doing well, number one. Number two, that they're thoroughly investigating what happened to anyone else in the audience. We have some reports, but not final reports. And every agency in the federal government, I'm going back to my phone to speak with the federal agencies that are being put together again to give me an updated briefing. Has anything happened? They learned any more in the last couple hours. So thank you very much, and I hope I get to speak to them tonight, and I'll get back to you if I do. Okay?
Mr. President, do you think this was an assassination attempt?
Yes.
I don't know enough to...
To be fair, there was still not a lot of information out, but I think you should have just immediately said, I mean, I don't know if... Yeah, I think you should have said, I believe so. I don't really see any negative outcome to just saying, like, I think so. I can't imagine what else it could have been, you know?
I have an opinion, but I don't have any facts. So I want to make sure we have all the facts before I make any more comments. Thank you.
Are you worried, President, safety? Was the security failing, Mr. President?
I do like that he just takes like the one question and leaves. What a stupid question. I mean, they needed to ask something, I guess. There's not really like there's just so much to ask that one question just isn't enough, right? Like there's just not enough. This was 20 hours ago. There just wasn't enough information out at the time, right? Former classmate of Trump rally gunman said he was bullied almost every day. Is this real? No fucking way. Are we getting info about the shooter
here.
now?
There's a large media presence here. You've had members of the community come and approach us, including one person who said he actually went to high school with this suspected shooter. I want you to listen to a little bit of our conversation there.
He was bullied almost every day.
In what way? Can you explain?
I mean, he would sit alone at lunch. I mean, he was just an outcast, and you know how kids are nowadays, so they're gonna see someone like that and they're gonna target him because they think it's funny or whatever. So it's the best way I can describe it. And it's honestly kind of sad. Like, I don't want to say this is what provoked it, but you never know.
Yeah. You said he was a loner?
Yeah. I want to say he was a loner more because he was quiet, but like he was just bullied. Like he was bullied so much.
And this was high school.
Yeah.
What did they, do you remember at all what they said to him or called him?
No. He was just made fun of, I guess, for the way he dressed or his appearance.
That's
To like the individual who's been identified kind of has a vibe going with them that's kind of like, if you were to imagine what the guy on the other side of the Groyper PFP on Twitter calling you a slur looks like, you might imagine someone pretty one-to-one with what the shooter looked like.
That's what he was saying. He said that he was actually in the class before, behind the suspected shooter here, and we have some movement here where you hear an ambulance or a car horn. Excuse that background noise. But one thing that we also heard from that conversation is that when we asked what he was bullied for, what this shooter was bullied for, he pointed to his clothing. Apparently, according to this.
God, could you imagine, Delancey, that this results in the Republicans pushing heavy against guns, or at least like for a little while? Trump was willing to pass the bump stock ban, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. If Trump goes against guns, he could lose a lot of the like the center right vote, like those that are just kind of like 2A nuts that are just willing to vote red to keep their gun rights, like vote red no matter who, just for guns. That could lose that base supporter crowd, honestly.
A person who says he was a classmate, the shooter would wear military-style clothes or hunting clothes regularly as he was at school. So we're still learning a lot more. We can tell you investigators continue to go in and out of the scene here. We know multiple agencies are here, not just local police, but the...
So here's my theory, guys. I sadly can't show the photos of the shooter, like, on the day of the shooting, because the photos that are like clear of his face are also with him covered in like dried blood and like a hole in the back of his head and one in like his cheek around here, I think is where they got him with the entrance wound. So I can't show that, but like there are a few details that stood out to me. Notably, we've gotten some possible but not fully confirmed info about the guy. One is that supposedly, now, I want to be very clear, there's a lot of information about this, so before you guys say what you think you know in chat, trust me, I probably know more than you because I do a lot of research about this shit, and I don't want to sound stupid by saying something wrong. So, some stuff has come out. One of these things is a possible public donation that supposedly the shooter made when he was 17 to a progressive, like, pack of some kind. It was like a Vote Blue pack or something like that. Something along those lines. A name along... It was like Blue Party pack or something like that. And this was supposedly made by him. Act Blue, thank you. Supposedly when he was 17. However, under the same name... E-Man. Like I said, let me finish. Let me finish, E-Man. Like I said, though, there's another thing that came out. Supposedly, around or on his 18th birthday, he registered to vote as a Republican. Now, War Penguin, let me get to it. Let me speak. I'm not done. Supposedly, around his 18th birthday, he registered to vote as a Republican, and supposedly voted as a Republican in 2020, 2020, if I recall correctly, or was it 2022 during the primaries? Here's the thing, though. I already know War Penguin. Stop. So here's the thing, though. The donation might not be him, but it could also, it was 2022, thank you, but it could also still be him. Allow me to explain why. We do not have full confirmation on if the voting registration or the donation are either the same person, or if either or the same person that they could be are the same as the shooter. Yes, the names line up, and yes, the locale lines up, but there's a possibility. One thing I want to point out is people were saying that the donation could not have been the same guy with the same name that registered and voted as a Republican. Because A, that organization apparently doesn't allow donations unless you're a legal adult, right? And B, the zip code, or sorry, the city was different from the city that this individual lives in. But here's the thing: if you take the zip code of the individual who did the donation, the donation to Act Blue, you will find it is the same city. It's not labeled as it on the donation, but if you look up the zip code, it is the same city as the guy who's registered Republican, voted Republican, and also shares the same name as the shooter. So it could be all the same person. It could be 3 different people. It could be 2 different people. We don't have enough info to know, but right now, the evidence we have, which could very well change, suggests that there is a chance this guy at 17 was kind of progressive, kind of left-leaning, perhaps even somehow made a donation to an org that is left-leaning. But even if that's the case, which it may not be, apparently, based on the evidence we have now, by the time he turned 18, he was far more conservative, registered as Republican, voted Republican, and somehow, despite that, ended up taking a shot at Trump. He was also wearing a Demolition Ranch shirt, which is a popular gun channel on YouTube, which doesn't necessarily make you conservative, but if I were a betting man, guns and fandom to gun YouTube channels generally leans conservative. I would bet conservative more times than not, though I myself am a lefty who watches gun content and owns guns, so yeah, I'm an exception to that rule, so it's possible that things could change. Overall, though, my theory, my current, bet theory, this is my theory with the information we have currently, is this kid... Here's my theory. Based on what we know, this kid had a really tough childhood, probably got bullied a lot at school, and was a big-time loner. The internet was probably this guy's only form of, social interaction, entertainment, and joy, and he probably found himself kind of floating around different communities and identities online, depending on how he felt and what he was going through. At a certain point, he might have found himself, I don't know, he could have been struggling with some LGBT feelings and thinking wait, what, I can't be LGBT, what do you mean? And then maybe he thought that he was getting bullied because of that for a while, and that led him to being progressive when he was 17. Who knows? He could have had a stint where he was just in with a more progressive crowd when he was 17. Maybe things got worse, particularly involving bullying, and by the time he was an adult, he ended up a chud. Based on the fact that he took a shot at Trump, while seeming to be a chud, suggests to me that this guy's goal was not a malicious hate of Trump. My theory, if we find out about this guy's motive somehow, maybe he's got a manifesto on his hard drive back at home, which I'm surprised he didn't publish one if there is one out there. If there isn't one out there. My theory is he was going to try and take out Trump and hoped that Trump's death would lead to civil war. That's my theory, that this was a Groyper adjacent, very right-wing, highly radicalized and mentally unstable individual who had gone so far that he was willing to try and assassinate Trump and risk his own life doing it because he thought that would be the event that could start the civil war that people like him long for. That is my theory. No, not shoot past Trump, but shoot Trump. Like, I think his goal was to hit and kill Trump, and for Trump's death to be the, catalyst of a civil war that people like him long for. We're going to find out more with time, but that's just my theory. And, if it ends up being proven wrong, then I'll look dumb. But if I'm proven right, then it'll be like, whoa, looks like I was right, Sounds possible? It does indeed. That's pretty much all we know right now that's not speculation. I have no doubt that over time I'll be doing updates to this story as we learn more. We might even get a manifesto for all we know. So yeah, make sure you don't take anything to heart unless you know for a fact it's confirmed. Take any theories with a grain of salt, and be careful out there. That said, thank you so much for watching this segment. I do hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell icon, and comment down below if you want to support my channel and see more from me. Follow my social medias linked down below to see more from me, including my fan Discord, where I host game events, call-in streams, and watch parties, and announce all my new content. And if you want to support me directly financially, you can always do so by donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or supporting me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, StreamElements, Patreon, or buying merch in the Streamlabs link down below. But regardless of how you support me, thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.